You won't believe what happened in my quiet little neighborhood. Something straight out of a movie. There's this HOA Karen who's been causing trouble for a while, but this time she crossed a line I never expected. She actually tried to steal my boat. Yeah, you heard that right. My boat. What started as petty arguments over parking spots and community rules suddenly turned into something way bigger and way more serious. When I caught her in the act, I knew this wasn't just about neighborhood drama anymore. It was something that would end up with the feds involved. This HOA Karen had a reputation for pushing boundaries and stirring up trouble, but nobody saw this coming. The whole community was shocked. Neighbors were whispering, and I was left trying to figure out how someone could go from petty HOA fights to something criminal. The story behind how she planned it, what happened when I confronted her, and how it all escalated to a federal investigation is wild, and you're going to want to hear every detail. But the craziest part? There's more beneath the surface that nobody knew about. Secrets that explain why she did what she did and what's at stake for the whole neighborhood. This isn't just about one person or one boat anymore. It's about control, power, and the lengths people will go to when they think they're above the rules. Stick around because the story is just getting started, and it's going to blow your mind. Before this whole crazy situation with the boat, life in the neighborhood was mostly peaceful. Well, as peaceful as it can be when you have an HOA and a Karen on the loose. Karen had always been the kind of person who loved control. She was the HOA board president, and she took her role way too seriously, often turning small issues into big conflicts. People whispered about how she enforced rules inconsistently, and how her temper could flare up over the smallest things. But nobody expected her to cross a line like this. My boat had been parked in the designated spot for months without any trouble. I'd taken care of all the paperwork, paid every fee, and followed every rule. Still, Karen seemed to have it out for me. There were whispers that she wanted the boat space for herself, or maybe someone close to her. I tried to keep things civil, but her passive-aggressive behavior made it clear she wasn't just annoyed, she was plotting something. The tension had been building for weeks. I noticed her driving by the boat late at night, sometimes taking pictures or jotting down notes. The neighbors started noticing odd things too, like missing locks and unexplained scratches around the parking area. When I finally caught her trying to move the boat without my permission, everything changed. It wasn't just about a stolen boat anymore. It was about exposing how far she was willing to go to get what she wanted. And that's when the investigation started. As the days passed, the tension in the neighborhood grew thicker. Karen didn't just stop at trying to take my boat. She started making accusations against me, claiming I wasn't following the community's proper procedures. Some neighbors began to question whether I was in the right, and that made things even more complicated. It felt like the entire HOA was turning into a battleground, with people taking sides. Some stood up for me, saying Karen was abusing her power, while others seemed to believe her version of the story, caught up in the drama. Meanwhile, I started digging into Karen's background and discovered she'd been involved in other questionable incidents in nearby communities. Rumors of similar disputes and shady dealings followed her, but she always managed to dodge serious consequences. This added a whole new layer to the story. Was she just a troublemaker, or was there something more calculated going on? On top of that, I learned the federal investigation wasn't just about the boat incident. Authorities were looking into allegations of mismanagement and potential fraud within the HOA itself. It was like peeling back layers of an onion, each one revealing more secrets and lies. The quiet neighborhood I thought I knew was hiding a darker side. Every interaction felt charged with suspicion, and even simple conversations at community events became tense. This wasn't just a fight over a boat anymore. It was a struggle for truth, justice, and control. And the longer it dragged on, the more it became clear that no one in the neighborhood would come out untouched. The days leading up to the big HOA meeting were filled with nervous energy. Karen was more aggressive than ever, sending emails to residents accusing me of harassment and threatening to take legal action if I didn't back off. She even hired a lawyer, which made things feel way more serious than a simple neighborhood dispute. I, too, was preparing my case, gathering evidence, talking to neighbors who had seen her suspicious behavior, and making sure everything I said could be backed up. The boat wasn't just a boat anymore. It had become the symbol of a larger fight for control within the community. Tensions spilled over into everyday life. At the local grocery store or community events, people avoided me or whispered behind my back. Karen seemed to thrive on the chaos, showing up with a confident smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. It was like watching a chess game where every move was calculated, but the end game was still unclear. Then came the night when things escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. I got a call from the local police, saying federal agents were on their way to question Karen about the investigation. Word spread fast. The neighbors gathered outside, some hopeful, some worried, wondering if this would finally bring answers or just more drama. As the agents arrived and started asking questions, everyone held their breath. The calm neighborhood facade was cracking, and the truth was about to come out, but in ways nobody expected. Just when it seemed like the investigation was finally going to expose everything, an unexpected twist turned the whole situation upside down. As federal agents were questioning Karen, they uncovered something no one saw coming: a hidden ledger full of suspicious transactions linked to other HOA board members. This wasn't just about Karen's attempts to steal my boat or her misuse of power. It was part of a much bigger web of corruption within the entire HOA. Suddenly, the focus shifted from one person to the whole board. Neighbors who had once trusted the HOA were shocked and confused, realizing the problems ran deeper than just one bad apple. The investigation expanded rapidly, with federal agents now interviewing multiple people, gathering evidence about financial mismanagement and possible fraud. The stakes were higher than ever, and the small community was caught in the middle of a scandal much bigger than anyone expected. Karen, who had been so confident and aggressive before, now looked more nervous than ever. But instead of cooperating fully, she started pointing fingers at others on the board, trying to save herself by exposing secrets she'd kept quiet for years. This only fueled more suspicion and divided the neighborhood even further. The boat theft was no longer just a dramatic incident. It became the spark that ignited a full-blown investigation into the HOA's leadership. Everyone was waiting to see who would be held accountable and how far the corruption went. The calm, quiet neighborhood was gone, replaced by tension and uncertainty, and the story was far from over. As the investigation deepened, the truth finally started to unravel. Karen and several other HOA board members were formally charged with fraud, embezzlement, and abuse of power. The hidden ledger was the smoking gun, proof that money had been siphoned from community funds for personal gain. It turned out that the boat incident was just the tip of the iceberg, a symbol of a much larger scheme to control and manipulate the neighborhood for their own benefit. During the community meeting called to address the scandal, emotions ran high. Neighbors who had once doubted my claims apologized, and a new, transparent HOA board was elected with a promise to restore trust and fairness. My boat was returned without damage, and the parking space was officially secured in my name. It felt like justice had been served, and the neighborhood was on its way to healing. But just when everyone thought the story was over, an unexpected twist emerged. As the new HOA board began reviewing past decisions, they discovered another layer of deception. Someone had been secretly recording meetings and conversations for years. This mysterious whistleblower had been gathering evidence behind the scenes, not just against Karen, but against people trying to cover up the truth, including some who had seemed innocent. The revelation shocked everyone. The fight wasn't just about a boat or one corrupt leader. It was about a neighborhood awakening to the power of accountability. The story had started with one woman's fight to protect her property, but it ended up exposing a system that needed to change. And the whistleblower's identity? Well, that's a story for another time. After the shocking discovery of the whistleblower's recordings, the neighborhood began to breathe easier. The layers of deception that had clouded our community were finally coming to light, and with that came a sense of hope. The new HOA board promised transparency and fairness, making changes that prioritized residents' voices and rebuilt trust. Slowly but surely, the tension that had gripped the neighborhood started to ease. Neighbors who had once been divided found common ground, sharing stories and supporting each other. It became clear that the real battle wasn't just about my boat, or even Karen's actions. It was about standing up against corruption and making sure everyone in the community felt heard and respected.